Well, coming up on today's show, the UK's public charging network just got bigger by 14%. The Kia e-niro range has been downgraded after an error, and a Chinese brand for EVs expands into Europe. Those and more. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to EV News Daily. It's Tuesday, 4th of December. My name is Martyn Lee. I've been through every EV story I could find today, whittled them down to the ones you need to know about. Well, thank you very much to myev.com for helping make this show. That's the world's first marketplace about buying and selling electric cars. It's totally free, and it really simplifies the whole buying and selling process. And if you were listening to our Sunday special a couple of weekends ago about how you would like to buy and sell cars in the future, it's fair to say that dealers came in for a bit of a kicking, and it was nice that I could swap a few messages with somebody who I'll mention in a moment, who is the exception rather than the rule, one of the finest dealers here in the UK. But largely, people were just unhappy with how they buy and sell cars, and so that's why, in North America at least, have a look at myev.com. 3 new patrons to welcome to the gang. First up, a new producer, Norman BOLDUC. Thank you very much, Norman, for joining Patreon. Hello to Andrew from Northeast Solar. That's northeast-solar.com. Andrew's a new producer, and a new executive producer of the podcast, Rupert Mitchell, signing up at the super posh coffee once a month level. Thank you very much, Rupert Mitchell, for being a new executive producer. On my Twitter DMs today, I heard from both the podcast premium partner, Phil Roberts from Electric Future, that is ef.energy, if you want to check out Phil, he's the MD there, and Richard Graham as well, both are Model 3 UK reservation holders. Now, both of them got an email inviting them to go and see the Model 3 in the UK sometime this week. So if you're a Model 3 reservation holder in the UK, check your inbox. Check your spam folder in case you've not had anything, because you could be going to see one. I've only seen the Model 3 once, but I couldn't stop smiling afterwards, because this may sound silly, it just made sense. Something in my gut told me, this is right, I need this car. Well, following up some thoughts yesterday, I was talking on yesterday's podcast about Formula E, moving on to more Formula 1 heritage circuits. Not all of them, but I think it'd be nice to compare and contrast. Now the cars are twice as powerful and twice as fast. Twice the energy storage, and twice as powerful, not twice the top speed. Alex Cottis dropped me a DM to say that Formula E is actually about bringing motorsport to new audiences, and the silence of the cars means they can race in the heart of cities and at night time with no objection. So it's a good point, I hadn't thought about that. And talking about where the new model, the Fiat 500e is going to be built, because it's no longer a compliance car. They're putting it into proper production in Italy. One of my listeners, Marco Mascarello, or if I say it slightly less British, Marco Mascarello. Sorry, Marco. Messaged me to say that my pronunciation of Mirafiori was pretty awful and as bad as it gets. Mirafiori. Anyway, that's the place in Italy where they're going to make the new 500e. Thank you for the clarification. Sorry for mucking about with your language. Finally, before we get in with the podcast news, a selfish thank you. I was talking recently about the saga of our car that we bought, the electric car, the Renault Zoe, from a dealer as well, talking about how dealers let you down. Westover Renault, down here in Dorset. And on the day it arrived, the aerial was missing. So I immediately called them, and they said, we'll get back to you. Then I called them again, and I've been on the phone to them, and eventually they were like, we can't take one from one of the other used cars in the lot. And I'm like, you shouldn't be doing it anyway. But they were like, we'll order you a new one. Weeks ago. Nothing. Anyway, Will Adams heard me talking about that on the podcast. Will is sales at DSG in Morecambe. If you're in here in the UK, there's a dealership called DSG. He sells a shed load of Renault Zoes. I think that's the official car dealer term, right? Shed load. He sells a lot of Zoes, and he heard me telling the story, and then, in the post, arrived a new aerial for my Renault Zoe. So, Will, thank you very much for the aftercare for what a different dealership should be doing. That's what you call service. And kicking off with the news, to everyone who forwarded me this story to say, you haven't talked about it yet. I totally agree. In one announcement, the UK public charging network just got bigger by 14%. Podpoint, the charge point installer, said that located at 600 big Tesco stores throughout the UK, and sponsored by Volkswagen, they are working together to roll out 2,400 EV charging bays at 600 Tesco stores. It's going to be over 3 years. The charging bays are going to be based at Tesco Extra. These are the really big, like, hypermarket, maybe if you don't know what I'm talking about, like the really big superstores that sell everything from a pair of pants to a TV to your weekly groceries under one roof. They're huge. And the superstore car parks all around the United Kingdom, they're going to be made up of 7 kilowatt fast charging posts, and they're going to be free, and the 50 kilowatt rapids, and they will cost, but they're going to be priced in line with market rates. The partnership with Tesco and Volkswagen creates a new sponsorship-based business model for charging EVs, and it's been in the works for a long time. Geraldine Ingham is the head of marketing at Volkswagen UK. This incredibly exciting partnership, she says, with Tesco, powered by PodPoint, underlines the scale and ambition of our electric car programme in the UK. Working with these partners to provide extensive networks of UK EV chargers leaves nobody in any doubt the Volkswagen brand's wholehearted commitment to EVs. That's great news, and congratulations to everyone involved in that. And like I say, it does increase the stock over 3 years of the UK public charging network by 14%. That's significant. It's the start of a new month. The sales figures are trickling in from around the world. First up, 41.3% of Norway's November passenger car registrations were pure electric cars. That number, 41.3%. If you add in plug-in hybrids to that, then it goes up to 60%, according to the auto analyst Matthias Schmidt on Twitter. Good news, if you are in Colorado, the Colorado Energy Office has awarded a $10.3 million grant to a California company to install 33 fast chargers for EVs across the state. According to the Sentinel, the grant's part of a multi-state program to increase the number of charging stations and encourage the use of EVs. The company that won the award was ChargePoint, who we talk a lot about on the podcast, has a similar charging station offering all around the USA and Canada, including several in Grand Junction. The grant money is part of their state's settlement agreement with Volkswagen over the allegations of Germany's Dieselgate saga and the Federal Clear Air Act that meant that selling vehicles that emit more air pollution than the Act allowed, and by cheating on the federal tests and hiding some of that pollution, Volkswagen making good by installing chargers around America. And of course, we talk about Electrify America a lot on the show as well. Here's a problem. The official range of the new Kia e-niro has been downgraded after it was found that the testing agency hadn't followed the official procedure, according to a story I saw today in a UK newspaper called The Express. An external independent testing firm has had the finger pointed at it, been blamed for the error. They failed to correctly apply the new test procedures. Here in Europe, what you've got in the USA is the EPA. Here in Europe, we have the WLTP test cycle. It's new. And what they were meant to do was test the car normally, but they tested the Kia e-niro for a disproportionate amount of time on the urban bit of the cycle. The problem with that is the urban testing comprises the lower overall vehicle speed and reduced energy requirements, so that led to an overestimation of what the Kia e-niro would do. The 64 kilowatt-hour battery has therefore been downgraded from 301 miles to just 282. Someone got told off at work today then. Someone's having a bad day. But you know what? 282 miles is still stellar, and actually, you know what? In winter, when it's cold here, if you're driving it normally and the aircon's on, and if you got 250 miles out of it, I'd be over the moon delighted. Kia e-niro looks like a very nice car, by the way. Not on sale yet here in the UK. I'm tempted. Moving on. Funnily enough, our question of the week this week set by myev.com, and we weren't to know this when we set the question on Sunday, all about would you buy a Chinese EV, presuming you're not listening in China, because if you are, the answer is obviously yeah. Please do send me your answers on the question of the week, by the way. Great Wall Motor. Now, Great Wall Motor is the mainland's largest maker of SUVs, and they plan to make inroads into Europe with EVs in 2020, helped by a new brand expected to bolster their growth. The brand is called Aura. ORA, the Aura brand. According to the South China Morning Post, Ning Shuyong is the VP of the Baoding-based vehicle maker. He said that the Great Wall had begun studying ways to build out their global system for EVs, and the ultimate goal is to sell those Chinese EVs in Europe, part of their efforts to go global. The group unveiled back in September the first Aura model, the Aura IQ. It's a crossover style car, and they're now going to unveil the new model, which is called the R1. That's a 4-seat mini electric vehicle. It's got a range of 350 kilometres. That's going to be unveiled mid-December. The R1 will have a sticker price of about $15,000 to $16,000 US, and it takes on other cars like the Mini from Chery and JAC's iEV6. Meanwhile, another Chinese company, NIO, said today on social media, on the social media site Weibo, that it has delivered over 8,000 cars, putting it on track to win a bet with its rival, Xiaopeng Motors. According another $1 billion EV startup, by the way, they're backed by China's e-commerce giant Alibaba. According to a Quartz article today, reaching 10,000, which was the number they made the bet about, would be a major milestone for NIO, and it wouldn't put it far behind Tesla in China. Widely admired are Tesla for their cars in China. They sold 17,000 cars last year, and that put it in the top 10 of EV sellers, fully electric cars in China. This year, the company has sold so far around 14,000 EVs for the first 9 months of the year. Those stats, according to the China Passenger Car Association, they get their data from car companies. And I'll put a link to both of those stories in the show notes if you'd like to read more. The Nissan Leaf, as you know, you've talked about that a lot on the podcast recently, from the 60 kilowatt hour version being postponed. Well, at least the launch of it postponed. I don't think we're actually postponing the actual production of it. Maybe. The launch postponed because they wanted the story around their former boss, Carlos Ghosn, to just quieten down a little bit. Still only 2 weeks ago. As far as I know, still in custody, last I checked. He was after 10 days anyway. And, of course, we've talked about the recent story about the Leaf Nismo RC race car, where they've added twice as many motors and a massive battery. Not that they'd say how big the battery is, to make a truly bonkers fast Nissan Leaf. Well, sales are out for November for the Nissan Leaf in the US, and steady is how Leaf sales have rolled out for most of the year, but now it's seen a downturn. According to Eric Loveday, who writes for InsideEVs.com, and by the way, I highly recommend checking out the plug-in sales scorecard. You'll see it at the top of every page on Inside EVs, and if you're a stat nerd like I am, it is kind of heaven, nirvana. With just 1,128 Leafs sold for all of last month in November. Sales are down compared to 1,234 in October. It now seems the best figure Nissan can possibly hope for this year is 15,000 if they're lucky. And that's a disappointment if you consider that in the best of times, go back a couple of years, Leafs were selling at 30,000 units a year. To half with a new model as well. 40 kilowatt hour battery, great styling, great car. I like it a lot. Yeah, people complain about no active thermal management, and I understand. That's a real shame. Why do you think? North American buyers not into the Leaf? Or is it the Tesla effect? And people, they call it the Tesla stretch, don't they? People who would have bought a Leaf or a Prius going, you know what, hang it. We're gonna go big. Buy a Model 3. That's what I mean by they stretch their finances. They call it the Tesla stretch. People moving up a segment. Maybe it's that. What do you think? Let me know. You can leave me a comment anytime about any of these stories. In the show notes, you can email hello@evnewsdaily.com. Final story is a real warm one to put a smile on your face. An inspirational, young environmentalist. She's 12 years old and she's just travelled 300 miles from the Midlands here in the UK, somewhere called Birmingham, to Dundee. By the way, that's straight up, and it's up a long way in Scotland. And she's been placing hundreds of thank you notes that she's made on electric vehicles. Now, she's 12 years old, and she's called Charlotte Smith, and yesterday she was made officially the youngest ever member of the Electric Vehicle Association of Scotland, and it's all in recognition of her incredible efforts, according to the Courier. And what a lovely thing to do. She's been placing small notes on the windscreens, the windshields, of car owners in the last year around her hometown, and with the help of her dad, after learning about what emissions do to people, and particularly what emissions from cars and trucks and diesel buses do to young people and our children. When she learned about that, she started leaving these little thank you notes on the windscreens of EV drivers. How amazing is that? What an awesome young person this is. Congratulations, Charlotte, for being a thoroughly lovely human being. So, with her dad's help, she heard about Dundee. Now, Dundee is a bit like California is the EV capital of the USA. Dundee really is the EV capital here in the UK. So they're just making so many investments and sensible decisions, and they've just got everyone talking to everyone, and it's really taking off there. Now, Eleanor Chalmers is a board member for EVA Scotland, and if you follow her on Twitter as Elle's Electric Dream, she has been a super ambassador for electrified transport for a long time now. She presented Charlotte with her exclusive membership at the city's new Princes Street charging hub for just being generally a legend. Well done, Charlotte. I told you that put a smile on your face. It's something about this time of year. It's almost Christmas. We're feeling warm and fuzzy, aren't we? And that's a lovely story. Hey, take part in this week's Question of the Week. It's online right now, and thanks to myev.com, they've set us this Question of the Week. Keep your comments coming in on email, hello@evnewsdaily.com, or YouTube, Facebook comments. You can DM me on Twitter. I'll leave those open. Here's the question. Would you be interested in knowing more about EVs coming from China? And would you like some of them to be offered for sale in the US and the EU? What would make you buy one? What would put you off? Well, you can let me know. Please let me know in the comments. Is made in China a swear word or something to be proud of these days? I take it you've all got a mobile phone somewhere within reach. A cell phone, yeah? Yeah. And I thought you liked that. That's quite a nice product, isn't it? Yeah. So would you buy a Chinese EV? Let me know. Thank you very much to 120... Oh, I've lost count. No, that's that. Oh, man, that sounds really arrogant, doesn't it? I don't mean it like that. I've 125 patrons of the podcast. Only because we had 3 today and I forgot to update my show notes. I was about to read out the old number. Not like, oh, I forgot how many I've got. 127 patrons of the podcast. I will update my notes in my little book. Thank you very much to 127 people who support this show. And we spread the word about EVs around the world now to thousands of people every day. If you want to download any of the previous 315 shows, they're on all the places you get podcasts, and they are free and always will be. If you subscribe, you get them first and free and automatically. And if you can leave a little review in return, that'd be amazing. If you wanted to check out Patreon, by the way, I know it's a financial commitment. It's not for everybody, but if it's of interest to you, Patreon, patreon.com/EVNewsDaily. In the meantime, catch up on the socials on Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you tomorrow.